Beneath the roots of an ordinary tree lay hundreds of names. Names written in fragile ink, on scraps of paper, hidden inside glass jars. Each name belonged to a child who was supposed to disappear forever. But someone refused to let that happen. In the darkest chapter of human history, one woman risked everything, not to fight with weapons, but to save lives, one child at a time. Her name was Irena Sendler, and for decades, almost no one knew what she had done.
The year was 1940. Poland had fallen under the Saitra of Nazi Germany, and in the heart of Warsaw, something unthinkable was unfolding. A prison was being built, not with bars, but with walls. The Warsaw Ghetto. Over 400,000 Jewish men, women, and children were forced into a space barely large enough for a fraction of that number. Starvation became normal, disease spread like wildfire, and hope slowly vanished. Children wandered the streets alone, too weak to cry, too hungry to move. Outside the walls, life continued. Inside, humanity was being erased. But not everyone looked away. One woman, working quietly as a social worker, saw what others refused to see, and she made a decision that would change thousands of lives forever.
Irena Sendler was not a soldier. She carried no weapon, no uniform. She was a social worker. But in a world where silence meant survival, she chose to act. Using her position, she gained access to the Warsaw Ghetto under the pretense of inspecting sanitation conditions. Officially, she was there to stop disease from spreading. Unofficially, she was witnessing horror no one should ever see. Children with hollow eyes, families torn apart by hunger. Most people would have walked away. But Irena couldn't, because she believed something dangerous, something powerful, that every child, no matter their religion, no matter the risk, deserved to live. And that belief would soon make her an enemy of the regime. So she made a choice, not just to help, but to fight back. Quietly, carefully, and at unimaginable risk. It started with a question. How do you save a child from a place no one escapes? For Irena Sendler, the answer was unthinkable. She would have to smuggle them out, one by one, right under the noses of Nazi Germany. Some children were hidden in ambulances, sedated to keep them silent. Others were carried out in toolboxes, suitcases, even sacks. Infants were smuggled through sewer pipes. Older children were taught new names, new identities, new prayers. Because once they left, they could never go back. Parents faced an impossible choice: keep their child and risk certain death, or trust a stranger and let them disappear into the unknown. And somehow, they said yes. Irena worked with an underground resistance network, risking execution every single day. She forged documents, bribed guards, created safe routes, and every time she crossed the gate, she carried a life with her. Not knowing if she would be caught, or if that child would ever see their family again. But she kept going, because stopping was never an option.
For years, she escaped detection. Hundreds of children saved. But in 1943, everything changed. Irena Sendler was arrested by the Gestapo. They had discovered her operation, and they wanted names. Names of the children, names of the resistance. She was taken, interrogated, and tortured, but she said nothing. Not a single name, because she knew that one word could destroy
everything. She was sentenced to execution, and as she waited, it seemed like her story was about to end. But the resistance had one last move. A guard was bribed, and just before her execution, Irena Sendler disappeared. Official records declared her dead, but in secret, she was still alive. And even then, she didn't stop. Saving children was only part of her mission. Irena Sendler had made a promise. She wrote down every name, the child's real identity, and their new one. And she hid them inside glass jars buried beneath a tree, so that one day the truth could be restored. After the war ended, the jars were recovered, and inside them, hundreds of stories waiting to be reunited. For decades, her story remained largely unknown, until the world finally learned that one person had saved over 2,500 children from the Holocaust. Not with power, not with violence, but with humanity.
History remembers wars, generals, empires, but sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones no one sees. Irena Sendler never called herself a hero. She simply did what needed to be done. In a world ruled by fear, she chose courage, not once, but every single day. And because of that, thousands of lives continued, families were rebuilt, stories were not erased, all because one person refused to look away.